Welcome to Inspired Living with Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Every Wednesday, Marc, along with his special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Marc will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Marc is a tested, certified, and professional spiritual medium, metaphysical teacher, healer, and spiritual advisor with a spiritual practice based in Seattle, Washington. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be in this magical, magnanimous, magnificent, majestic, marvelous, metaphysical, miraculous, mind-awakening, mind-boggling, and mind-blowing planet of ours. This is Inspired Living Radio, where we like to say, you are the inspired and the inspiration. So let's be inspired, let's inspire others, and let's inspire before we expire. I am your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, here with you yet again for another soul adventure and inspiring episode to discuss, explore, and discover the many diamonds within each and every one of us and the many gems in our world that have yet to be revealed. So get comfortable, grab your favorite drink, kick back, sit back, or lie back, taking a nice, deep, healing, peaceful, and cleansing breath. And let us prospect and learn together as we discuss today's topic, which is all about being confidence unleashed, be the unstoppable hero of your own heart. We're going to be bringing our guest on here in just a few minutes, but we want to, just continue on this journey in the many pathways of life to dream, discover, explore, and experience through what I like to say, body, mind, and spirit, for another inspiring, uplifting, and educational episode of Inspired Living Radio. Do want to always give a big shout out and thank you to all of our inspired listeners from around the globe, the universe, and beyond. My team and I here at Inspired Living Radio are always so very humbled and grateful for you listening, downloading, subscribing, leaving reviews, and making Inspired Living Radio and Podcast a best inspirational and now a best spiritual show to follow and listen to as referenced and sourced by FeedSpot. We really appreciate it, and of course, we really appreciate you. If you have not yet subscribed, liked, or followed the show, there is always time to do so over on our main social media platforms at Facebook. Just look for the community Inspired Living Radio and Podcast. Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter, just look for our handle, which is Inspired For Us, and that's the number 4, Inspired For Us. And of course, you can always follow us over on our YouTube channel, Inspired Living Radio. And we are now streaming through Audible or your favorite podcast platforms, or you can simply say, Alexa, open up Inspired Living Podcast to play the latest episode. So as I like to always say before we begin each show, is a new day, a new opportunity, a day we've not seen before to use our intuition to prospect this wonderful world around us. Are we ready to go prospecting? Let's go. So today our guest is joining us for the first time. I want to read a little bit about her. Her new book is called Confidence Unleashed, Be the Unstoppable Hero of Your Own Heart with Laine D'Zouza. And a little bit about her is that she is a top fitness professional, and she's joining us, like I said, for the first time here on Inspired Living. She is America's hottest trainers, and she's going to discuss her new book, again, Confidence Unleashed, Be the Unstoppable Hero of Yourself, and a little bit of her journey and her soul adventure. She's been recognized, like I said, as one of the top fitness professionals in the industry today. Laine has been in the fitness industry for over 18 years. She holds a BA in, drama and a multitude of certificates, including an NASM, and an ISSA personal trainer, a CF1 Mobility Endurance Kickboxing Yoga Alliance 200 hours, a Baron Baptiste Power Yoga certified, a Scott Pilates trained, an ACE group fitness instructor, a Schwinn indoor cycle certified. So she definitely knows her fitness. Laine's passion and heart help her to connect with individuals, clients in her high energy classes, and are always in high demand. Laine's been recognized as one of the top 50 America's hottest trainers, and she's been mentioned in both Vogue and Shape magazines for her intense indoor cycling classes. The CrossFit Box Lady, Lake Cross, she co-founded, was mentioned as one of America's top CrossFit boxes. Ms. D'Zouza is a renowned health and fitness professional specializing in self-development and motivation. And again, with more than 25 years experience, she has a passion for helping individuals unlock their full potential. And she has inspired and empowered countless people to overcome self-doubt and achieve their goals. You can learn more about her. You can look for a couple ways here. You can go to WMRRanchfit.com. You can also look for the Ranch Fit app on your mobile device, and you, of course, can go to our social media accounts where the links will be present there as well. So, Laine D'Zouza, welcome to Inspired Living. How are you, my friend?
Thank you. I'm very well. Thank you so much. And you?
I'm doing okay. I'm still, I don't know if you had a chance to see that eclipse on the 8th, which was Monday just a few days ago, but I don't know where you're at in the United States, but just watching it, even though I didn't get to see it live here in Seattle, because you could probably guess that we had clouds here in Seattle, but just watching it, what a spiritual moment. It just made, your hair stand up. It just gave you this inspiration where everybody's looking up and that we're all unified, and that we're so small in the universe. Did you get a chance to witness the eclipse of 2024?
I did. It was really, like you said, a moment that can make everybody, the whole world, basically stop and have a moment with their feet grounded on the earth and looking up, knowing that there's something so much bigger and beautiful and leading us all. It was quite an amazing experience. I do contest.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I did get to see it here years ago. I think it was 2015 or 2017. We did get a partial totality here in Seattle, and I got to see it for the first time I had a welder's match, so I was able to see it, which was just, I can see why people go around the world chasing these eclipses, because it's the only place in the universe that this happens, with our sun, our moon, and how its totality hits planet Earth. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the universe, or in our galaxy at least. And so I can see why people chase these eclipses. I'm actually thinking about maybe heading in 2026 to Greenland or Iceland to check it out. So,
yeah.
But welcome. I want to start with a right out of the book here, and let's talk about your book. And I loved how you open up the prologue with you versus you, because that is really the journey of us versus our ego mind versus our analytical mind. And then, of course, you started with the quote from Glinda, the Good Witch from Wizard of Oz: "You had the power all along, my dear." And it's funny because last episode we were actually talking about the Wizard of Oz, so I guess this is a nice segue into this episode to talk about the book you've written about Confidence Unleashed, Be the Unstoppable Hero of Your Heart. So let's talk about it. What inspired you to write this book and release it out into the public and our consciousness?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that, but it's you versus you, because at the end of the day, it's how we feel about what we do, right? That's all that really matters. And we all seem to be waiting for when I lose some pain, waiting for that spine surgery, waiting for the show that you get, waiting. And it's like, I'll be happy then. And actually, if we can learn that it has nothing to do with the outside circumstances, and if we can create that feeling of making your
Okay. Yeah, I'm not hearing her either here. Give it a sec. Welcome to Mercury retrograde. Okay. All right. And Chris, we'll just edit this part here if we can. All right, so let's just talk about, we'll hopefully get her back. Like I said, we've been on the air long enough to know when we've gone Mercury into retrograde, it does impact technology, and she did mention that there was a storm coming through. So hopefully she can call back in and we can finish this interview and this episode of Inspired Living. So let's just talk a little bit about her book, a little bit about the table of contents. The Symphony of Resilience is what she first opens the book with, and again, it's you versus you. And I'm just going to read to the opening of this book from her. And she says, "It's to my ever resilient body, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, my badass vessel, for your unwavering support through my incredible journey. You've cradled my two precious blessings, displaying an indomitable strength as you allow me to carry them into this world. You've been my partner in joy, enabled me to dance, run, play, and boldly lift the weight of life's fiercest challenges. In moments of weakness, you've stood tall, definitely resisting the grip of sickness, bouncing back with remarkable resilience whenever I faltered in my care. You've endured my demands without flinching, never wavering in your unyielding commitment to me. Even when I've taken you for granted, you've remained steadfast and true, radiating strength in the face of adversity. My magnificent body, I thank you from the depths of my badass soul with boundless love and a fiery spirit, Laine." So that's the opening of the book. And again, you can go to our social media pages on Facebook, which is Inspired Living Radio and Podcast, X, formerly known as Twitter, and in Instagram, just look for Inspired for us to get the links to this book. I was able to read through it, and it's a fun read. And again, she starts off with, you had the power all along. It's you versus you, and there's a lot of truth to that. So greatness is overcoming yourself, and this is something that I was talking about last week on my metaphysical meetup with Marc on Fridays, and it was talking about belief and how powerful the beliefs can be. And it was a Harvard study done back in the 50s, I believe. Let's see here. And during the show, I was talking about our mindset and the power of belief. And what they had done back in the 50s, this was done at Harvard University. Yes, okay, she's back. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm literally in Florida in the middle of a crazy storm, and it takes out our internet. So I don't know if that's what's going on, but we're buckled down here for some crazy storms.
Okay. Well, I was just talking about the opening of your book. You're in some great energy, Mercury retrograde, so we'll just try to get through this as best we can and hope that the connection sticks. But I was just talking about the opening of your book and just kind of read your opening to your resilient body. And I was also talking about the power of belief. It's something I was talking about on my show last week, that a Harvard study they did back in the 1950s. And we'll hopefully get to that a little bit later here in the show. But just for the listening audience, now that we have you back, Laine, what was the reason you wrote this book? What inspired you to write this book?
So I wrote it for my daughter, basically, and I also wrote it for any other young women or young men that would feel, less than and not connected to their true selves and their understanding that, like you said, we are all children of the universe, and that we have divinity in us. And when we feel disconnected from that, sometimes we act out, and we also don't always we abandon what is true for us, and it can lead us down a path that is not good. And so I wrote this book for anyone that had suffered from or does suffer from like low self-esteem, I want to say, or any kind of lack or self-fear or doubt and negativity that like literally can paralyze them.
I love that. What's your daughter's name?
Her name is Koa.
Koa. Well, big shout out to Koa for this book that your mom wrote. And did I get all your certificates correct? Was I saying those correct during the opening? Because you have a lot of expertise in fitness and a lot of different, from CrossFit to yoga to Pilates. How long have you been working on all these certificates? That is a long time.
So, it's funny. I'm sure like any other profession that you have to constantly stay up in your profession and do like continuing education. So a bunch of that is that. But I also just loved movement. So it wasn't like I ever wanted to specialize in one thing. I just felt like having all of these things in my toolbox could make me connect with people in so many different ways. But what I found most useful was actually Pilates, because it kind of relates to everything and it relates to our lives. It's all about posture. I know you said you're about to have spine surgery, and I think afterwards, after you do your rehab, I think Pilates would be an amazing thing for you to strengthen your core. And people don't know that, but Joseph Pilates was a boxer, and he wanted to create something that helped him fight gravity and to stay strong in the boxing ring. And then the Royal Ballet took it on, and it became only for dancers. But it literally teaches us power stancing, grounding to the earth, and fighting gravity and lifting your body up against gravity. So I think that, if anything, I really am a firm believer of strengthening your core and being a fan of Pilates.
Well, yeah, thank you for that advice. I am scheduled for 2 to 3 months of rehab, so I will actually incorporate the Pilates into it. I've only done it one time, and at first, kind of that mindset, you're like, oh, I'm going in, and did it, and didn't find it to be that difficult. But I tell you what, the next few days, I was so sore doing those machines, and I was like, okay, there is definitely something to this. And you're right, movement, for me, I've always said movement is life. When we stop moving, that's when, everything starts just settling, right? It's like once growth stops, decay begins. It's kind of the same thing with movement. Once we stop moving, then all the bad things in the human body and the mind and the spirit become, stalled or stale. And you open the book with "Greatness is overcoming yourself" in bold letters. Tell me about that. How is greatness is overcoming yourself?
So I think that I believe confidence truly is a mixture of outer and inner. So when you do something that you didn't think that you could do, you're overcoming yourself, and that is like a building block. Like nobody can take that from you. You're like, I did that, and that's a sense of confidence. I don't think confidence is something that we're given. I think it's cultivated, and if we can just overcome ourselves, our egos, our sense of our limitations, whatever we think is true, if we can challenge that and overcome ourselves, there's a whole universe waiting for us. So I believe when we put limitations on ourselves, or we do hard things, and we listen to that internal voice, that is a greatness, basically. And sometimes that voice can be really paralyzing, or that limitation that we put on ourselves can be very paralyzing. So even if it's little steps that you overcome your limitations, or what you're thinking is true, that is so powerful for us to do.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that voice you just mentioned, because you said it opens us up, when we move into confidence and when we move into belief. And I was just talking about that during that part that we lost you on the call. I was getting into a Harvard study they did with mice back in the 1950s about belief, and I'll get to that in just a second here. But, it opens up a universe to where, I'm a big fan of Star Wars. For most that follow my work know that I'm a child of Star Wars. And I always realized when George Lucas would say, your focus determines your reality. And once you set your focus in motion, it opens up a whole universe. But the challenge of overcoming yourself is, who's the one person you're going to talk to the most in your entire life? Yourself, right? So it really becomes a discipline and an awareness and a mindfulness of, what voice are you listening to the most? Are you listening to the self-sabotaging ego voice, or are you listening to the higher self-motivating voice that gives you confidence? And I think for the listeners, that's important to realize that there are two different voices. We have to choose which one we want to listen to the most, or listen to more, the ego self-sabotaging voice or the higher self-inspiring voice. What would you say to that?
I really totally agree with everything that you're saying, and I'm saying that we can train our minds and discipline our thoughts just like we can our bodies. So building a bicep, right? Like, it's a gateway drug, fitness, and I can touch back on that later, but I do believe that repetition and all of these things is teaching you how to get to a place. And it's the same with our brain, right? So when we have these thoughts that can be self-deprecating, or that we believe that are negative, and we choose to believe them, what happens is that it sends you down the spiral, and then your body starts to take on those thoughts, and on a cellular level also. And that's like how sickness is created, in these thoughts of limitation or negativity or doubt and fear. And there is that tiny voice, which is the spirit within us. And sometimes it's barely audible, especially if you've been living in that other place for so long. But it's always there. And I think like disciplining ourselves and yearning, striving for that voice and letting it come through, and then disciplining yourself to choose that voice is really key. And I do believe that's like cognitive therapy and ACT therapy, and there's all sorts of therapy that teaches us. But it's like when you go into a dirty room and there's stuff all everywhere and it's dark, you can't clean up the room because it's dark. You got to put the lights on first and be like, oh, sweaters are going to go here, shoes are going to go there. And it's the same with our thoughts. Sometimes we don't even know that we're thinking these thoughts because thoughts are so fast. But once you start to turn on the light in your mind and start to become aware of your thoughts and how you're talking to your body, you can choose different thoughts and you can choose to jump on a different wavelength. Like if you're watching a bad movie, you can choose to turn it off. It is the same with our thoughts and what we're choosing to listen to within ourselves.
Yeah, and I love that. Turn the light on in your mind. Some people just turn the light on for a brief second, say, I don't like this, turn the light off and walk back out, right? And science has shown us, just we've done lots of episodes here on Inspired Living, and we've talked to doctors, we've talked to writers like yourself, authors, and they talk about, science shows that we have about 50 to 60,000 different thoughts because we can only have one thought at a time. We can multitask and we can multi-think, but you can only have that come into the brain through, whatever the route is, whether it's through the visual or the audio or taste. You can only have that one thought, and then it moves on to the next thought. And there's about 50 to 60,000 thoughts. The problem is, many people out there in the world are thinking the same thought over and over. So out of those 50 to 60,000 thoughts, 95% of the population is just paying attention to Groundhog's Day, repeating those thoughts, and not wanting to turn the light on in their mind, turn the light on in the darkness, because awareness does bring change. Eckhart Tolle teaches about this. Awareness is the greatest agent for change. But with what you do in fitness, science has also told us when we actually work out, whether it's Pilates or weightlifting or basketball or running, there are a lot of things that happen with the endorphins and the hormones that are released into the brain. And I figured just before we go to our first break that you may want to, with your expertise, may talk about that, because there is a real scientific study information that is happening with exercise and fitness.
Well, it's so true. I do believe that fitness, movement, exercise, however you want to hear that word, is a gateway drug. And like you said, it pumps our body full of endorphins and dopamine and serotonin. I mean, it teaches us delayed gratification, not even on the scientific level, but on a spiritual level. It teaches you delayed gratification. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you consistency and also self-motivation. And what I love about it is that if you go and you do it no matter what, even if you don't see the results, you keep showing up. You're not going to see the results immediately, but through faith, what you are doing, the results will come. And like you said, building skeletal muscle is so important for longevity and our lives. I mean, it not only does it protect and shield our organs and helps us with injuries, but it also defies gravity and helps bone density, movement, mobility. I mean, I believe skeletal muscle will literally save your life. It helps you with your metabolism. I can go on and on. It helps create more blood cells. It stores and releases minerals and fats, and it also builds your immunity. And not only that, but it does give you confidence. When you can trust your body, I had a client that was in a car accident, and women generally are not as strong in our upper bodies. And her whole thing was she wanted to be able to do push-ups. And she literally had to push a car off her chest. And she said to me that she heard my voice, and she said, if I had to, could I? And that's what I say to my clients. If you had to, could you? Because we're not just training to do 10 push-ups. We're not just training to do pull-ups. We're literally training for life. And here was a life and death situation, and she totally could trust her body. She totally could trust herself. And I do believe that's what it gives you, this confidence, this ability to be prepared for the unexpected, to be able to handle the unprepared with great curveballs, whether we accept that or not. And if we do accept it, it's just going to be better for us when the curveballs come. But if you've trained yourself and you hear your mind talking when you're in a difficult situation, whether it's running and you're dancing or you're pushing, you're doing something that's really challenging physically, you can hear those thoughts in your mind. And that's an opportunity to put yourself under pressure in a safe environment and learn how to control your mind. When your breath is out of control, how to see what's going on in your mind. And then when you're presented with stuff outside the gym or outside the, dojo or wherever you're at, you can handle it because you know that you can do it in that situation. So it's just that extra preparedness for the unprepared, whatever the word is, the things that get thrown at us.
The unknown, the mystique, the mystery of life and the many pathways that, life throws at us, right? And I like how you said that, training for life. And you said earlier about the spiral. I always teach my students and my clients, take that spiral, stop spiraling, because life is a spiral. What we resist persists, and the lesson repeats until it completes, and start to take that spiral and move it up and evolve. So the spiral becomes something that you're striving for to evolve in your journey. And, here on the show, we've done lots of topics, talking with experts about neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to rewire. And again, coming back to that voice, that's an amazing that, you have to wonder if your client would have, been harmed even further if she wouldn't have listened to that voice in her head, hearing you say, can you do it? Push this car off.
Right. And it's not even, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that's listening to the voices within us and the belief and the power and the confidence unleashed, no pun intended. But we're going to, let's go to our first break because I want to come back and I want to jump right back into this. And we want to talk about belief too, because I think that's very, very important to go along with confidence, is the belief in who we are. So we're going to be right back here in just a few minutes. We're talking with our guest today, Laine D'Zouza, her book, Confidence Unleashed, Be the Unstoppable Hero of Your Own Heart. We'll be right back here on Inspired Living in 2 minutes.
The future of internet radio is here. Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
One planet, 7.3 billion people. Only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free ascendinghearts.com.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for
summer break because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job
and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Inspired Living. Our special guest today, Laine D'Zouza, talking about her book, Confidence Unleashed, Be the Unstoppable Hero of Your Own Heart. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a little bit of sound coming through there. So before the break, we were talking about confidence and the thoughts and the voice within. And I think during the first part of the show, we lost our connection. So I was talking about belief. And one of the interesting things about belief is this is a study they actually did in the 1950s at Harvard, and they were taking mice and putting them in water. Now, for you listeners out there, I know that sounds cruel. But what they would do is they wait for the mice to get to the point where they couldn't swim anymore. And on average, it was about 15 minutes, and then the mice would start to sink to the bottom. And what they would do is they would reach in, grab the mouse out, dry them off, put them on a towel, let them rest for a couple minutes, and then they would stick them back in the water to see how long the mouse could actually swim in the water, just treading water. And it was a very fascinating study because you know how long they ended up going after the average of 15 minutes the first time? Any thoughts?
How long?
60 hours.
Oh, wow.
60
I was going to
hours.
say 15 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of people would think, maybe double that. So the first round was 15 minutes on average, and then they would be pulled out and they'd be rescued. And in the mind of the mouse, they were able to go 60 hours on average because their belief was they would be picked up out of the water and rescued. So if a mouse can do it, we can do it, is what I'm getting at when it comes to the power of belief.
It's so true. And honestly, I have just trained a lot of people and seen a lot of people from special force people training to go on, Delta Force services and other kind of things to moms or people that have lost 100 pounds. And what shows me that is a common denominator with all of these people is their mindset. And we're not born with that mindset, but the key is that we can learn to create that growth mindset. And when things happen to us or we get pushback or resistance happens, that we have the power and we have the control to choose the thoughts that we believe. And that really does change everything. It changes the outcome. Because really at the end of the day, like you said in the very beginning, you spend the most time with you in your brain. Your life, your body's going to change from a baby's body to a toddler to an adolescent to an old person. Your body's going to go through all these transformations throughout your life. But at the end of the day, it's you with you, and learning to do things that make you feel good and choosing thoughts and feelings that make you feel good and happy is truly the key. And I'm not saying run away from anything hard. I embrace the hard for me. I like the struggle. So for me, I'm not saying run away from hard. I'm saying that vibration of yearning and wanting something is what creates momentum towards a manifestation. And without that yearning and that struggle or that creation, you can't arrive at the manifestation. And so often we just want to jump and say, I want to lose 20 pounds. And we forget that it's the journey and the daily habits that you're doing that's creating you liking yourself. Because if you just jump to the 20 pounds, you kind of skip the step. And guess what? You just kind of yo-yo. Whereas if you're implementing daily habits, learning how to turn on the light in your mind, learning how to see what your thoughts are, then when you get to where you're saying you want to be, it's such a well-earned feeling. There's like a little celebration, a win, Whereas if you skip that step in the journey, you're missing the whole point of all of it. So it's like learning to fall in love with the vibration, learning to fall in love with the struggle.
Yeah, I like that. And it's a reminder for the listeners out there about being present in the moment. A lot of us forget to plant the seeds of today because we're so focused on what's, like you said, losing that 20 pounds in the future or what we didn't do in the past. And so it does become, my mantra has always been believe it, see it, achieve it, for the fact that a lot of us want to see it first before we believe it. And it really starts with you, of that belief and that confidence inside. When you start to believe it, then you start to see it, then you start to achieve it. And I think it's very important. Now, you had said the word manifest, which I think is very important. I think it's a word that we need to discuss, because I actually started to meditate. You'll appreciate this because I've got my graduate studies in sports medicine and human performance, and it was in that that program that I started to learn how to meditate. And it was all about meditation, visualization, and manifestation for the professional athletes that were going through the programs that we were, doing the sports medicine for. And after that, that's where I really started getting into meditation and listening to that higher self, that higher voice of confidence and belief. And it really was about meditation. It was about visualizing what you want, visualize that 20 pounds coming off your body, but stay in the moment. Don't get ahead of yourself. And then you start to manifest what you're visualizing, and that you plant the seeds today for the future you want tomorrow.
It's so true. And, it's funny because if, like you said, visualizing what it feels like to be that 20 pounds lighter is so important, to have that feeling first and to be grateful for what you already have without it. So if you never lost it, you always know that I'm making space for something more. Whereas if you're just yearning for that thing, there's not enough space. You're just going to want more and more and more, and then you achieve it and you want more and more and more. Whereas if you're creating that space and that ability to be happy and be grateful in this moment, whether you have it or not, is what will bring you to that end point, or that, I say there's never really an end point, but to that, goal that we're chasing, whatever it could be. And it's so funny because, like you said, energy goes wherever your attention is. So your attention is where energy flows. So if you're putting your attention on the negativity and and what hurt my heart was training women in New York City, and I would hear so many self-deprecating, hateful comments directed at themselves, to their own bodies, and this body dysmorphia of how they would be like, oh, I'm so fat, and it's like, hey, be kind to my friend. I need you to practice talking to yourself kindly, because you wouldn't say to your sister or your best friend, oh, you're so fat. So it's just like learning to treat yourself with kindness too, because we often don't. We talk to ourselves like whatever, and your body's listening, your body's hearing that, your cells are taking that on. So I do believe putting your attention on where choosing and disciplining where you're putting your attention, which is what meditation helps us do, is super key. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to do yoga, I'm not flexible enough, I have to wait till I'm a little bit more flexible to go to a yoga class, or I don't know how to meditate. Well, that's the whole point, right? We don't go to a yoga class because we're already yoginis. We don't go to meditation because we're already, gurus. The whole point is little steps and practicing and being like, I'm here now. And that's okay, because the more I do this, the more I show up, the more I create these daily habits, the more my body or my mind is going to do what it's going to do. And sometimes you just need to get out of our own way and just focus on the daily habits and creating that routine, then the end goal, because your body really will do whatever it's going to do when you treat it right and exercise. And although a lot of people struggle with movement or exercise, they don't enjoy it, but it's just if we could take out that feeling towards it and be like, okay, I'm just going to floss my teeth before I go to bed. Same thing. I'm just going to go exercise for 20 minutes, incorporate that into our lifestyle. It is really a gift from the gods, building skeletal muscle, moving our bodies. I believe that the diaphragm is one of the most important muscles that we have. It literally helps us breathe. And, if we could understand that that exercise literally was a gift from our Creator, then we would be so much better off. I think mental health professionals should be writing scripts for exercise 3 times a week, plus whatever they need to give the person, but that it literally will change your whole outlook. And, you know, being grateful for your body instead of being like, I'm so fat, like, wow, my body has withstood so much abuse from me. I'm so grateful to my body. It's given me 3 children, whatever it is. And just flipping the script is so important. And we take things for granted, like breathing. Like I just said, the diaphragm. Without the diaphragm, we wouldn't breathe. And our bodies, we just kind of, until you're really sick or you have pain, like I'm sure your spine surgery, you just take that daily thing for granted. And it's like, we need to stop and just feel the gratitude of our bodies. And guess what? The 20 pounds will come when you're practicing that every day and you're being kind to this gift that we've been given, which happens to be our body.
Wow, yeah, so many diamonds right there that you just spoke to. And, you know, you're right, because, you know, focus determines reality. Science has shown us that when we actually set intent to do something, energy will actually follow that intention based on the energy within our heart. So that's why we say the journey is of mind, body, and spirit, because you do have that energetic being as well. And one of the things, even with my journey, as I prepare for a major life change in a major surgery like myself, is I wasn't able to do some of the yoga movements that I had done in the past. And so I actually switched over to Qigong, which is the study of your own life force energy. And it's actually the mother of Tai Chi, and it's also a cousin to yoga, very ancient tradition. And one of the interesting things you said about is it focuses not only just on the movement of energy for my listeners out there, but it also focuses on the power of the diaphragm, which is called the dantian. And it's at the heater, which you can actually make yourself warm up. You know, Navy SEALs do this, Buddhist monks do this, to where the breath actually becomes one of the most vital forces in the human body. So much that I actually have the Sanskrit of breath now tattooed on my forearm as a reminder to just breathe. But you also, one of the things that you were talking about is our nervous system and our cells and the alchemy of who we are does not know the difference between a joke and truth, or a lie and what we tell ourselves. And so it's very important that that conversation, like you said, that you would see these women in New York that would just be, you know, just self-sabotaging themselves and really 2 steps back before they even began. So it's a reminder to the listeners too that, you know, watch your thoughts, be mindful of what you're saying to yourself, because your nervous system and your cells don't know the difference. So it's more of just a reminder to be in the present moment and be with motivation and gratitude, and tell yourself how amazing your body is. Mantras, self-positive talk. These are all ancient things that you and I, you know, have learned over the years, but it's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right. And that's the thing when you said, oh, I have it tattooed on my arm, just breathe. There's no just about it, right? Like we're just like, oh, just breathe. Right. But there's no just. It's like breathe. Like you're being breathed. You and me, we're being breathed. We're not breathing. Like something is breathing. Like if we just look at this, I'm not breathing. It's just a natural thing that's happening within my body. I don't build a baby. It literally will build itself in my body as a woman. You know, these are things that are happening, and it's a gift that we are being breathed. And when we stop ourselves, like hold our breath, or I'm just like freaking out, or I'm thinking that I'm controlling things, we forget that, you know, everything works out in our favor. Like this is a gift. And every morning waking up being like, thank you, God, one more day, or thank you, whatever it is, one more day, one more breath, one more chance to be kind to myself, to do better than I did yesterday, to earn my sleep, whatever it is that you want to say. But, you know, like there's so much power in just breathe, you know?
It really is. And, you know, it's a reminder that we unconsciously breathe until we actually, now that we're talking about, everybody listening to today's show is like, oh, I just need to breathe. I need to breathe true. I need to breathe deep, right? And it's a reminder that we need to be aware to breathe in the life. We need to breathe in the energy, the prana of life, because it is a gift. And the first thing you should do when you open your eyes, and we've done past podcasts about this, every day you open your eyes, the first thing you should say to yourself is not what do I have to do, what do I need to get done. It should be thank you, because it is a blessing and a privilege to be in this day. We did a podcast a couple years ago, and on average around the world, there's about 50,000 souls on the planet every single day that do not open their eyes. Think about that. 50,000 on average that do not open their eyes.
Right, and that's
a blessing to be able to breathe.
Yeah. And just like how you said, that's such a privilege we take for granted. Well, when you're calling yourself fat, or, oh, I'm so fat, or, oh, my butt looks big, or whatever it is. And I was guilty of this, which is also a thing that I wanted to teach my daughter and other young people growing up, that there are people that have lost their legs. Like, you just need to go to a vet place and see there are people that are so much worse than us. And we have the opportunity to do these things and make ourselves better and move our bodies as a gift. So when we're calling ourselves fat, like you said, our cells take that on. And I really truly believe that somatic healing is very, very powerful, because sometimes our central nervous system can't, if we've been through a trauma that's big, and most of us walking this planet has been through a trauma for ourselves, sometimes sitting there and meditating and just breathing won't do it. But learning how to calm your central nervous system without being like, to meditate, but learning that you and I can be in the same room, and if I've had trauma, it's not going to trigger me, but we can stand opposite each other, and what's happening in my body is separate from yours. I'm not going to jump in and jump onto your energy, but learning that after trauma is so powerful, and learning to create a safe space for yourself after trauma is so important. But we don't need to continue the trauma by calling ourselves fat or this or whatever, however we talk to ourselves. And that's really, like you said, the neurons in our brain. It's like walking a path, right? The more you walk it, like on a grass path, the more you walk it, the more the ground will show of that path. And it's the same with our thoughts. The more we have the same repetitive, Groundhog Day thoughts, the more that neuron pathway is getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And just learning to practice and discipline ourselves to choose different thoughts and practice a different way and a different path and create different neurons is so big. And it's a gift, and we forget it. We think that we're stuck here, and we're so not stuck.
Yeah, and it's, I just such knowledge and wisdom, and thank you for coming on and sharing with the inspired listeners. This is what we love to do, and this is why I love doing these shows, because before we went on air, is sometimes the conversation takes us where the inspiration needs to be heard by the listeners. So for you listeners out there, stop the trauma, stop the self-sabotage. Read this book. Start to get into, like you open the book with Glinda, the good witch from Wizard of Oz. You had the power all along, my dear, and your focus does determine your reality. And what's funny is you said two things, and I love synchronicity. Einstein always said synchronicity was God's way of remaining anonymous. And you talked about breath, which before the show, as I'm getting ready for my major surgery, I was literally breathing into my spirometer. I have to do this spirometer 5 times a day, because they're going to actually put me on anesthesia, and I'm going to get tubed. And so from here until next week, I have to do all these exercises, and it's focused on breath. It's literally focusing and blowing into this machine. And you're right, perspective about the VA. Guess where I was yesterday? I was at the VA. And so you see people that are, not as fortunate you are, have suffered major injuries. And it does come back to the power of the breath. The breath can be so, so healing for the journey. And of course, your thoughts, your mindset, your mantras, and of course, what you're telling yourself. So, Laine, for the time we have left, again, if you want to check out this book, where can people go get this book?
So, yeah, you can buy it actually in online. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. It's actually in Walmart and Target, not in, but online. So yeah, all the major stores, you can literally order it and it will come to you.
I love it. And it's a great read. For those looking to be the unstoppable hero of their own heart, you'll want to check this book out. Again, you can go to our social media sites to get the links, or like Laine just said, you can go online. Just look for Confidence Unleashed and check out this book. And with the remaining time we have left, because like I told you, these shows go by so very quick, what do you want to share about the book? Any insights about the book? Congratulations, by the way, on writing this book. It's always a big soul adventure and journey. I'm trying to write my second book. So,
awesome.
Share some insights in the book about your journey and what the inspired listeners might gain from reading this wonderful.
Yeah, I think that, it's funny because I was dyslexic and I never thought that I could write a book. Like, that was not something that I would ever want to do or could do, or even like, oh, I'm going to be an author. That's not something that was on my to-do bucket list. But what happened was I kind of lost my way again, and I kind of forgot that I have a voice and I have a gift to share. And by writing this, I feel like it will empower people to know that they can do things too. If I am dyslexic and I can do this, you can do it too. If I can move my body every day, you can do that too. It's just these little things that seem so daunting to us. Like you said, mindset is everything. And honestly, I feel like the book was me trying to tell people to stop the self-loathing. Like, really put your hand on your heart, put your other hand on your belly, take a deep breath and ground yourself and know that you have the power and choice to create whatever it is that you want for yourself.
I love that. And just for the sake of time, because we didn't get to all the questions we had for you, but for the listening audience out there, I'm going to throw some questions, and you'll just have to go get the book and read it to get the answers that you're prospecting for. Is there a confidence gap between men and women? What advice would you give to your younger self if you had one piece of advice to give? What would it be? What are the most important habits to be successful? How do you prioritize self-care while managing the demands of daily life? How can people boost their self-esteem in moments of doubt? And I want to finish the show of what I like to do with my listeners, or with my guests, for the listeners, is what inspires you, Laine? Who or what inspires you for your journey to bring this book into, to visualize it, to write it, to manifest it, to bring it into our reality? I get where you're coming from. I never thought in a million years I'd ever do a podcast, let alone write a book. So I definitely get that and understand that. But what or who inspires you, since you're on Inspired Living?
So it's funny because I think that there's a part of me that is very connected to some things that I know that I'm here for. And at first that voice was really small. And like, again, I just tapped into it. And I think that what inspires me is to share that gift and to empower other people. My children really empower me. Like, my daughter is like, I believe we have many soulmates. She's one of my soulmates. And also my parents. Like, my dad was a very big influence on my life, and also my mom, both for different reasons. But my father was very much a kind, sweet soul from a third world country. He always wanted to give us everything that he didn't have, but also teach us value. And, is very much about gratitude and being present. And my mom is very stoic and English. So together, they're very, they gave me exactly what I needed for my struggles and what I needed to go through to start to become more of myself and overcome myself every day.
Well, I love it. So big inspired shout out to both mom and dad, because they had a hand in helping you write this book, Confidence Unleashed, to be the unstoppable hero of your own heart. So Laine, just before we close, best website. I know you have a Ranch Fit app, but the best way to visit you, or if they want to learn more about you and your journey, where can they go?
Yep, you can go to my Facebook, Laine D'Zouza, or to Instagram, Laine Live Love.
All right. And anything else you want to share with the listening audience before we close? Anything that?
No, I'm just very grateful. I'm very grateful to you and what you do, and just listening to you when you were speaking. You gave me chills like 3 times in this conversation, and that for me is like truth. Like there's truth that's present whenever I get the chills, and things that you were saying gave me chills. So just this hour that we had together, I'm very grateful. So thank you. It's been honestly a privilege, and I feel very grounded, and I feel very connected after this conversation. So thank you very
Likewise.
much.
No, and thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey, your wisdom, your education, your knowledge. That's why I love doing Inspired Living, because it does help put a positive inspiration vibration out into our world that so much needs that. And so thank you for your greatest commodity, which is your time to be here today. And I love talking to people, and I really just appreciate you and what you're doing in your journey, and keep up the great work, and believe it, see it, achieve it. And we'll hope to have you on the show to continue this conversation, or maybe perhaps your next book when you get it done.
Okay, yeah, and good luck with that surgery. Stay breathing.
Yes. Oh yes, lots of breath. All right. Well, thanks, Laine. And again, if you want to check out the book, it is Confidence Unleashed. Be the unstoppable hero of your own heart. Thank you, Laine D'Zouza, for being on today. Thank you to the inspired listeners. Until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, wherever you're at, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover the diamond within. We'll see you next time here on Inspired Living. Take care, everybody.